Hi, it's Jan Beta, and today I am making the Commodore 64 cartridge that P-Star or Kim won in the last video. So I'm gonna solder this up and I'm gonna talk a tiny little bit about how Commodore 64 cartridges work. And I'm gonna make the cartridge with this Versa 64 card that bwack designed, and I had some of these PCBs produced at Dirty PCBs, which was quite convenient, and yeah, it worked out pretty nicely, I think. And I chose red as the color because I didn't see any of those in red so far. It's a nice design. You have these little solder jumpers. You can make it into a very versatile all-around EEPROM card that can take up to 16K ROMs on a single EEPROM. And you can solder in some dip switches and stuff like that. But basically, I'm gonna make a very simple cartridge today. That is not switchable or anything like that, any of the fancy stuff. I'm just going to keep it simple because it's going to be a Diagnostics cartridge. And not any old Diagnostics cartridge. I recommended the Dead Test Diagnostics. That was a cartridge that Commodore produced themselves. And it doesn't require any additional hardware. Most diagnostic cartridges of the time required a cable harness to put into the ports of the Commodore 64 to check those ports. And the Dead Test doesn't need that. And the other nice thing about it is that it works even if the kernel is corrupted, even if the CIAs are not working, even if the VIC doesn't work correctly and doesn't display a picture, it still flashes the screen for RAM faults and stuff like that. I'm gonna link in the PDF manual below. I got the ROM already from the world of Yanni, which is not me. He's also another person called Jan. I think he's also from Germany, actually. I don't really know. I don't have any contact with him, but he's doing a lot of very sophisticated stuff. So I'm gonna put the link in the description. Check out his site. He's doing a lot of helpful work on the Commodore 64 and on this whole field of old Commodore computers. And he has all the diagnostic ROM images for download. And even updated diagnostic ROM images, which is pretty nice. Yeah. So, okay, I'll stop talking and tell you a bit about Commodore 64 cartridges. And I'm planning on doing a more comprehensive video about cartridges for quite a while now, and I couldn't get through to make it as comprehensive as I'd like it to be, and at the same time be graspable still. And yeah, I have to figure out stuff myself still. So there's probably gonna be a cartridge video in the future that has more information in there, but not at this point because it's quite a bit of work still. Yeah. Okay, cut to a little information about cartridge. Here's a memory map of the Commodore 64, and this is all the memory we have, all the RAM. And there is the kernel ROM, the character ROM, and the basic ROM. And there is the cartridge port positions marked on this side here. Cartridge can be in this area of memory or in these areas, and a combination of these if it's a larger cartridge. And yeah, basically the largest cartridge that the Commodore 64 can see at once is 16K, I believe. So these blocks here, these little blocks are 16K, and you can basically switch the cartridge. You have to tell the Commodore 64 where the cartridge should be located. And that's where the dip switches or parts of the dip switches are for, and also there are little solder jumpers on the back that we are going to use. So you have to tell the Commodore 64 what kind of cartridge you are having here, and it will then map the ROM that will be on an EEPROM in our case to the location in memory where it's planned to go. And in our case, we're going to make a dead test cartridge, which goes here to the E000, this little portion here, which, if you are a good observer, overrides part of the kernel ROM. And that is a good thing in our case, because the dead test cartridge goes into function. It auto starts before the kernel ROM even starts. So you can basically take out the kernel ROM of the Commodore 64 and it will still start the dead test cartridge. There are also a few games that do that. Most prominently, I think it's Jupiterlander, that was used by many repair people to check Commodore 64 functionality without the kernel ROM in there, if the kernel ROM was faulty or stuff like that. So that's basically how this works. So I did something a little odd for myself. I actually printed out the manual, the user guide for the Versa 64 card that bwack made. And I think he got some help from Mindflare Retro, who is also a fellow retro computer YouTuber. You can check it out here. And of course, check out bwack, who designed all this stuff, which is very sophisticated stuff, of course. So the user guide has all the instructions, all the EEPROMs that are supported. I'm going to link in the GitHub where you can download this as a PDF below. There is very comprehensive, but I think it's a very nice manual because it has some information on how cartridges work, on how to convert the CRT files that you often get of cartridges, which are cartridge images that you can't directly burn to EEPROMs because they have some additional information in there. But it's all in here and I don't want to get into too much detail. This is the portion that interests us the most, and also this portion, because accidentally or incidentally, the dead test card, exactly the one we are going to make, is an example in the manual. So how cool is that? Don't even have to think for myself here. So we have to use some resistors and a 100 nanofarad capacitor and solder some jumpers and the EEPROM. So, and here's a chart of which modes, cartridge modes there are. The Ultimax mode is the one that overrides the kernel ROM, basically. And there's the 8K ones, which we are going to use. We are going to use 8K Ultimax, which is, we have to solder a jumper on game and switch and ROM high. So that's what we're going to do. There are the jumper numbers. It's all pretty convenient. I like this manual a lot. So, yeah. And I also came to the conclusion that I'm gonna make another one of these custom cartridges, that I solder up for you for my patrons exclusively. So check out my Patreon if you haven't done so, and become a patron, and you get another chance to win one of these in a couple of weeks, I guess, or a couple of days. Don't know when I can manage that, but there's been quite some demand for these. So I'll say that again, you can make these yourself. You can that's what these videos are aiming for, after all, make stuff yourself. You can download the files necessary to have these PCBs made. This is actually the first time I tried that, and it's turned out great, I guess. So it wasn't that hard. If I can do it, you can probably do it. It's all in the GitHub. Just check that out and make your own if you don't win. Or, yeah. Maybe you find someone make these. I don't have much time to make many of these, so that's not an option, I guess. Yeah. So I'm gonna give away another one of these for my patrons, and that's it then. then yeah, maybe there'll be another giveaway sometime, but don't have time making a lot of cartridges for you guys. So yeah, let's make this one for P-Star. Okay, so I have my 22 kilo ohm resistors here. I have a 100 nanofarad capacitor. I have some EEPROM sockets, 28 pin EEPROM sockets. So let's get soldering, and I'm gonna speed this up again because yeah, I'm just soldering. And of course one resistor fell to the floor and I can't find it again. So I'm gonna need another one. That's pretty typical. Yeah. So looks nice. So I have my Mini Pro programmer, Mini Pro TL866, which is very nice and inexpensive, comparably inexpensive device to program all sorts of EEPROMs. Can do most EEPROMs you throw at it, really. With an adapter you can also burn Amiga EEPROMs and stuff. And this is a 2764 EEPROM. Very old school. It's not even a CMOS EEPROM. It's very, very old school. But it's for the Commodore 64, so I thought I will go old school. It's one of my father's, actually, from the box of stuff I unpacked. I will link that in again. It's a nice video, I think, where I find my family's retro computer treasures. And I'm gonna use my convenient virtual box installation of Windows XP that I use for stuff like this because it's nice and convenient. And I'm gonna open up the software and look for the 2764 one, and it's an SGS one. Yeah, so let us load the dead test, which I downloaded from World of Yanni. Here's a dead test. Not much in there. It's just 4 kilobytes long, I guess, the real program there. So yeah, I'm going to program it. Program. Oh, programming stopped. Error. There's an error. Maybe the EEPROM is not as blank as I thought. So I'm going to try another one. Hang on. So I'm going to try an AMD AM27C256. Which has 4 times the capacity, so we have to quadruple our ROM, which is not a big problem, but yeah, I'm going to do it anyway. So this is here in the list, and we're gonna blank check our device here. Oh, it has an ID arrow, which all of these have. All these chips had ID arrows for me, I don't know why, but they worked so far. And it is blank, alright. So let us load our file I prepared off camera. 4 times our ROM, so it should be, it is just 4 times our dead test that we saw, and we're going to program it. I hope. Fingers crossed it works this time. All these EEPROMs are too old, I think, or have been written too many times or stuff like that. Okay, this one seems to work. Okay, that seems to have worked. So we have a dead test on here, maybe. Wow, there was some. I have to recheck my EEPROMs. And now I can put this into the socket here, hopefully, without making it worse. Yeah, there we go. It's nicely in there. And then I can try this. But first I'm going to put some black electrical tape over there, so it's protected from any UV light in the surrounding environment, which is eventually going to erase it. But it takes forever, basically, so this is nothing you have to worry about so quickly. So it takes days to even in direct sunlight. It takes days to erase these. That's why you have these UV lamps and stuff. So I think I'm ready to try this in the Commodore 64. Let's see. Okay, so I'm putting this into the cartridge slot here, which isn't easy because it doesn't have a case yet. So it's in there, trust me. I can't get it into the camera now. Okay, moment of truth. Let's see if the Commodore 64 explodes or if we'll have a dead test. The dead test takes some seconds to come on at all, so that's normal. Let's see, up to 30 seconds or something. Let's see. There we are. There's our dead test card. It's in this checks basic functionality of the computer. And yeah, it works without any cables or adapters or stuff like that. So it's pretty convenient if you only have to want to troubleshoot a Commodore 64. And to make this a bit nicer and a bit more convenient to handle, I got this, which is a standard cartridge case. It should fit this. I haven't tried it actually, but as it's all standard measurements, and yeah, it should fit nicely. And yeah, I hope, Kim, you like red, so it's all red. And I'm also gonna make a little label for it, I guess. Yeah, need some force. Oh, there we go. Pretty nice already. Kim asked me to sign this also, so I'm gonna sign it on the back side, I guess. So I'm gonna send this to Kim. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope Kim likes his new cartridge. There's gonna be more giveaways like this soon, I guess. There's gonna be a giveaway on Patreon, like I mentioned, so you can check out my Patreon and give me some support if you want to. And if you maybe want to enter the competition, nudge nudge. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you like this, give it a thumbs up because it helps with the YouTube ranking mechanisms a lot. Comment on this. Feel free to ask questions. I'm always gladly answering as much as I can. I don't know everything, of course, but check out the comments below. There's always discussion going on and stuff like that. Stay tuned for more. Hope to see you again on this channel soon. I'm in beta. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye. I was hoping for the music test to cut in now. Come on. So we can have the end screen and the music. Oh, there it is. Cinematography. Pure masterpiece of cinematography. Bye.